Os he convocado para que conozcáis que en el día de hoy presento mi dimisión como concejal del Ayuntamiento de Ponferrada.
Te presento, Ismael Nevenka.
Encantada.
Yo no creo tanto en eso del partido, yo creo en las personas, ¿entiendes?
In today's press conference, we have the cast of I Am Nevenka that competes in the official section. And with us today, we've got Juan Moreno and KOLDO ZUAZUA, producers, MIREIA, ORIOL, actress, ICIAR, BOLLAÍN, director, CAMPO, screenplay writer, URKO, OLAZABAL, actor, and Guillermo FARRÉ, the producer of Movistar Plus. As always, I'd like to start the press conference with a question in the film. I'd like to ask, how did the project emerge? This is aimed at the producers, specifically Julio, Juan and Guillermo, and also ICIAR. I would like to know whether Soy Nevenka, is this through the real case or through Juan José Milla's book? I know that you've worked together in Maixabel. It's a film based on a true story. So therefore you've made films like Julie or Kathmandu or Espejo en el Cielo, which are also based on a true story. I would like to ask about what the film has been inspired on, by the newspaper or upon the book or whatever. Hi, good morning. When we were premiering Maixabel, the experience of working with ICIAR and ISA was extraordinary from a personal as well as a professional standpoint. So therefore, we were interested, Juan and I wanted to continue to work with her. So therefore, we proposed several stories, among which we had Nevenka. The three were inspired on true stories, and ICIAR thought Nevenka was the most interesting for her. So therefore, the challenge was how to shoot Nevenka. So, for example, we did the same thing with Maixabel to get close to the real person, to the surrounding area of them, their environment, and do a research from respect and sensitivity to deal with an issue which is so delicate. And in that process, there was Juan José Villar's book, also the documentary by Ana Pastor, and all the documentation from the media of headlines and news, and a lot that had been written about it. So therefore, we got in touch with Ana Pastor, who helped us to get in touch with Nevenka. With Nevenka, we approached her very carefully with a lot of care, as I was saying. For example, the decision to accept that to make a film about her, she had to accept it. Obviously, at the end of the day, we convinced her, and here we are today. I'm very happy about the result. The truth is, KOLDO and Juan proposed working together with them, and I thought it was a great idea. And so therefore, they told me a couple of stories. Nevenka, I revisited Nevenka because I'd gone through that in the time, but it wasn't so fresh in my mind. But I thought it was a great story to tell. Very pertinent today. The distance of these 23 years allows us also not only to enter into the harassment she suffered, but also where we are at the present. 23 years ago, she lived it that way, and the Spanish society received it that way, and where we are today. And I asked, Isa about it, and Isa has his opinion why he also entered into the story. Yes, in fact, we spent some time discussing whether it was pertinent or not to revisit this story, which is a story of 20-odd years ago, whether it fitted into the current situation, and she believed that it was. We have advanced vis-a-vis sensitivity and consent as regards harassment, but there was still social mechanisms that are still there vis-a-vis this issue. But we were always looking for a way to enter into this issue from the victim standpoint, and we're seeing it, socially speaking. We're going through a moment in which this is in the headlines, in the front line, so to speak. Congratulations for the film. I would like to know, how did you choose the actors and the actors, your process, in order to portray your roles? Thank you. Well, it was a casting in which you couldn't make a mistake. You couldn't get it wrong in any film, but these characters are very difficult, they're very extreme, and they're complex. They had to have... Nevenka had to be fragile enough so that this man, we believe that she broke her strong enough to be able to get out of that pit that she was in, and the character had to have her ups and downs. For example, he's a horrible actor, but a horrible character, but he had charisma. He had to be socially accepted and charisma. So there was a long casting. It was very careful. Mireia Juarez, who's a great casting director, and Mireia emerged quite early in the casting, and she really astonished us because she's an actress who has a great capacity to convey emotion with a lot of truth. She came along because I had to see her in different aspects. I had to see her with URKO, but the truth is I was highly impacted by, highly affected, because she's quite moving. You've seen her, you can see she can communicate a lot of nuances in every scene, and always with the truth, which is very difficult. And URKO, I met him in Maisabel. He came to the casting because once again I had to see him in this character, and I knew that he could be that cold and make us believe that he had a lack of empathy, but I had to see him in that other facet as a man who was a popular and who was in contact with his city, and also he's a great actor as well. And I think they are two great actors that have portrayed, their portrayal of the actors have been of the roles have been very good. Hi, good morning. To prepare the character, I think, from the outset, we knew that we didn't want to imitate her, because Nevenka, I think that she's always said that her story transcends her own story. That there's a story of many women and many people who have gone through something similar. But I think that what we've worked most upon that duality that existed between the pre-harassment Nevenka and the post-harassment Nevenka. And I think it's the breaking of the identity of a person when that person suffers a trauma which is so constant and so it's almost like hell. So therefore, also what I've also done in talking to ICIAR is to maintain that feeling of dignity, and I would say of the love that Nevenka has of herself, because to come to report something like this is very difficult. I think you have to believe in yourself a lot, and you've got to have a lot of faith in yourself in order to do something like that. And I think that was the basis of the character. Hi, good morning. In my case, dealing with a real character, it's inevitable to try to find the image and how this movement expresses himself and how he talks. But of course, as we didn't want to do a copy, we had to seek other paths. But seeing the documentary, it was inevitable to not think about the victim and how he felt, and from his point of view, for example. This made me think the contrary. I can't look at him this way. I have to deny it. I have to get in the other person's shoes, and that was perhaps the hardest part of it, to use manuals of psychology to look at the patterns of psychological abusers and people who harass other people, for example, and use similar patterns with my intuition and with a great screenplay, and go forge ahead with this. And to play, at the beginning it was a play, but it started, I got hooked on it, and we didn't find the differences between me as an actor and the character. And that, at the end of the day, that was the in-depth work that an actor plays that can be fearful from the outside, but it brings a lot of pleasure for an actor and very motivating from an artistic standpoint to get into the character. Can I stand up? Okay. Hi. Thank you. Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for this film, because the truth is is incredible. It's very important, the reflection you make, that as a society isolates and ignores a victim. And I would like for Nevenka to be here, because I would like her to tell us, what does she want to tell this country that abandoned her and she had to leave this country to work 23 years later, because her support in this film has a clear message towards our society. And then to you, ICIAR and ISA, I would like you to tell us, what does fiction contribute vis-a-vis the documentary? What does this fiction of Nevenka, Soy Nevenka, contribute to the story? As regards the documentary, is narrated from the point of view of the moment in when it happens. So therefore, it was at that time in her life, she's gone through a reflection. She's personally grown and done therapy in a line of survival, basically. And we'd like to know what really happened at that time, and the breakdown between the beginning of the harassment and the trial, for example, the court case, for example. These are the different stages that the victim goes through. What was it like to confront society and what she had to pay? We live that in day-to-day, in present, all of that, and fiction has something very powerful, which is the empathy. You live with her, you feel moved with her, and you take it from emotion. This conveys much more than just an intellectual standpoint approach. Something that in the script was quite present. The story of Nevenka is what it is, but you can approach it from one standpoint or another. But we wanted to tell about the story about the harassment. We could have dedicated more time to the trial, the court case, or to the legal process, which was quite fascinating, how the lawyer, Adolfo Barrera, constructed the defense, the lawsuit that she submitted or presented. But the harassment issue, we have to understand it very well. It's very difficult. It's difficult to understand a victim who undergoes harassment. And it was the beginning of the script, we had to get into detail and to suffer it, and for the audience to follow this, and obviously to come out at the end, because when she comes out at the end and she confronts him, that press conference, I think, is epic. That is, that she was able to go to her city and to make an official speech, who was the Almighty in Ponferrada, and to be able to accompany her on that journey towards dignity again, I think is what fiction provides. It gives you that epic moment, and that's what we tried to do. Congratulations for the film, because I think it's a great film. It's a beast of a film, really. The actors, the script, directing. I have felt terror, for example, in scenes in the hotel room. It's a great terror scene, that one, basically. And I think it's very good that, albeit in order to vary, that men can also feel that horror and terror, and that feeling of because of how impune this person is, to feel afraid, to come at least to a certain percentage to what nowadays many women suffer. And the truth is, congratulations for that. And my question is a bit more directed at a technical level, which I thought is incredible. The photography with the diagonal frames that you take. How do you design all of those scenes, the color code that you use to express the evolution of the costume design, makeup, and so on? Thank you. Thank you very much for your question and what you say about the film. Yes, there's a lot of work in the art and costume design and makeup and hairdressing, and Luis Jordana, the DOP, for example. We have to go back to 2000. We had to recreate. A lot has changed. It's really a period piece, but it's a real case. It's a true story, but it's fiction at the same time. And then we had to prepare this aesthetics. There's a lot of colors that are not on the palette. We've only focused on certain colors. There's a lot of work by Carmela Soler and Sergio, I don't remember his surname, but the makeup team and the hairdressing team, with Nevenka above all, in her physical deterioration. There's also wardrobe, for example, Miquel Serrano, with the artistic side of things, all aimed at telling the same story. And there's Gris Jordana talks about, it's very important to present Nevenka well at the beginning. The image we have of Nevenka is always in that press conference as a victim, but she's a girl who started up with very powerful, very empowered, very sure of herself, brilliant, very young, and looking forward to working. So therefore, light, she's very balanced at the beginning and she's very bright. And as she gets into that web, for example, the camera starts to move around with her, and for example, and things get dark. So therefore, the work there is very significant work of all the team, and thank you very much for highlighting this, because it's very well taken care of so that we can all follow the same direction. And the musician is Sabi Fon, for example, who also contributes his emotion to the story. So therefore, it's an ensemble piece. Hi, Isa. Congratulations. I was very moved by the film. The question is, in the last 23 years, the truth is, how has Spanish society changed vis-a-vis sexual harassment? And it was necessary to make this film to change that perspective even more. And that's what I wanted to ask. And also, on the other hand, I'd like also to know whether you've got the feeling that this impunity continues of politicians in this aspect. Today, the society continues to support them, even though there is a lot of suspicion surrounding them. Does any man want to talk about how society has changed? It's better Isa or ICIAR or Mireia can answer, but we believe and think, and I think it's the interesting thing about this film, that it's interesting how Spain was in the year 2000, 2001, 2002. Well, obviously, society has improved, that's undeniable, and we have to be happy about it. This doesn't at all mean that we are at 10% of the path that we still have to go down. But for us, this film obviously is a political act, and we do it for something because we're convinced that it may be valuable, and can also serve so that young people can see that not long ago there was a people that came out to the street to defend a harasser, and that wouldn't be possible nowadays, because at a private level and semi-public these things do happen. We have improved, we've got a long way to go, and obviously the film has a vocation of really helping in that change, of course. I think that, for example, this question about whether she had a relationship with him, and so therefore it's open to all type of harassment or abuse. That doesn't exist. I think a change has occurred at this level. We question rape within marriage, for example. So therefore we've opened up people's minds, but nevertheless I think the issue, and why does it take so long to report? Why don't you report it until much later? A woman, obviously, who's the victim of harassment, she didn't look for it. All of a sudden this happened to her, and she has to process it and act impeccably. Well, be careful. Well, what we say, we have to manage this, and you can see this in the film, what it means to report and to expose yourself publicly, and what it generated reports, despite the fact she did it following each of the guidelines to report it and everything, and she had to leave the country. And so therefore, in that sense, we've still got a long way to go. As a young person, I didn't know the case. I would say that it is true that, for example, what strikes me, I see the people, not in my generation or your generation, many people, the big impact is the press conference. That at a public level doesn't happen. The press, quite fortunately, is in favor of the victim. Publicly, I think the position is much clearer towards the victim. But like Juan said, for example, at an intimate, private level, or semi-public, I would even say, there's still a lot of work to do, and therefore, and that's why the story appealed to me, and I could connect perfectly with the feeling of what we were talking about. It's like you've lived it yourself, or your friends have lived it, your girlfriends, or at school, the son of whoever is bullied, for example. So therefore, that exists, and I think that there's still a long way to go. I think this film can help a lot to truly, at an intimate, private level, to indicate and to the group of person or that friend who harasses or abuses, or the relative or family member who has abused. There's still a long way to go, and I think that's where this film appeals to. We see the accomplice silence in the surrounding, for example. That has to change. The social response has changed. I'm clear. We've seen with public victims of the media response and the response in the streets. Recent events have moved me quite a lot, but I think that still we focus upon the victim for the victim to report. We have to change the focus and to look towards the abuser, and in our close surroundings, for example, isolate these people and to not be accomplices by being silent. So therefore, I think harassment and abuse, for example, there's a lot of Me Too's that are still pending. We got this in politics, in business. We're all sure that these things happen at this level. So therefore, there's still a lot to be revealed and to do to make sure that can be heard and can stop occurring. Good morning. I would like to know why the film wasn't shot in Ponferrada. That from the outset it was quite clear to you that it wasn't going to be the city you were going to shoot it, or did you discard it from the outset? We, as it's based upon a true story, one of the fundamental stories was the place where it happened, which is Ponferrada. So we went on location. We requested to visit the town council, which is the core of where the story takes place. And this was about a year ago, over 1 year ago, in summer 2023. And the truth is, when you go to ask for permission at a public entity, there's a period of, well, proceedings. You have to wait, for example. And if it's summer, it takes longer because it's slower. But we realized they didn't say neither yes or no. There was an administrative silence there of letting the time go by until we had to obviously make a decision, because we had to wanted to know whether we could shoot there. Nobody answered it. So therefore we realized the intention was to not let us shoot there. Then also, I must say that Ponferrada, we visited Ponferrada several times. ICIAR and ISA interviewed them, several people, and also the crew. We visited the streets and different locations. The perception that you had with the story wasn't of a town that you could talk about the case of Nevenka's case as free as we thought. It's still an issue which is still quite thorny, which wasn't resolved. There was certain fear and strange silences that at the end of the day we didn't want to force the issue to shoot there, so therefore we found alternative cities in the area of Castilla León, and Zamora was the city that was chosen. And when it was made public that we're going to shoot in Zamora and Bilbao, at a media level, the socialist group and the governing team, they asked why didn't have access to shooting in Ponferrada. And I think the councillor or the mayor said the truth is that the film could generate damage to the architectural assets of the town. There could be a prejudice for Castilla and the wall, but they never told us at all. We found this out through the media and the headlines. The truth is that they publicly said they had denied permission because of what he just said. But the truth is, we never received any denial to our permission, so it wasn't too clear even in their minds how to even say no to us to shoot there. Hi, I'd like, Info by Beatriz Martinez, for example, I would like to highlight the media issue. Mireia, I know that you belong to a very young generation, and this has changed. Things have changed enormously, but I've got the feeling it's instrumentalized feminism and harassment and the victimization of women by the media. It's horrible to see how you introduce images that were true images in the year 2000. People like Ana Rosa Quintana, who continue to have the same idea of what happened. But I would like to know what you think, as all of these issues today form part of the ideology of how the right wing continues to instrumentalize to attacking women this way. So therefore, unfortunately, this continues to happen nowadays. Was the question for me? Well, okay, sorry. It's general. Okay, help me. All right. You're completely right. I think that the media today, above all, I think they're very objective towards women. That's how you see headlines of the woman of or the girlfriend of, instead of having her own name, her own entity or identity. This talks about being the possession, to be the property of another person or belonging to another person. So for these headlines, you say, a woman has died. I said, she's not died, no, she's been murdered. So therefore, I think there's still a lot to do there, but I'm not too sure because it's the environment that I move in. But my environment, we criticize this, and when something happens, we get very angry. When there are headlines in this, in my social media, for example, there's a visceral sort of reaction. So therefore, I think that those people are always going to exist. So that's why these films make sense. That is to say, they should be aimed at these people. But I ask myself whether we can move those mindsets. Urko, perhaps you understand this much better than me. At the end of the day, it's not a film just for people who have been victims of harassment, who feel identified, because we already talk about this amongst ourselves. My friends and I, we talk and understand each other. It's a film, obviously, for people who, the truth is, have to question themselves and ask themselves whether that person is a harasser, whether the person is a friend of a person who commits harassment. Well, it seems to me that male or violence is a very tough issue. People die every day. There's 1,280 women who have died. So therefore, when it's made political or when it's used to generate headlines or to generate controversy, I think it's regretful, and I think we're playing with people's life, the childhood of many children, the mental and physical health of many women. So therefore, that's all I can say. I think it's very unfortunate. I think that we have to get together, just like it's a state issue. We're talking about human lives, and stop playing around politically with it. That's my opinion. In Basque, as I was saying, Urko, could you explain what you've left in, for example, your character when you portrayed the mayor? And on the other hand, apart from the women, I would like to know whether this appeals to women or whether it appeals also to men. What message do you want to convey or should convey to society? In my case, I've realized how far, to what extent we hinder and harm women in our day-to-day. The fact of being a man this brings, well, you have to play a role. And this affects women in a certain way. So therefore, that is what my character has shown me in the film. For example, I've got a series of sequences with Mireia where I've realized that this behavior of the character is something that I may have had in my life, and the truth is it frightens me when you realize it yourself. So therefore, we always thought that in the case, I saw Nevenka, the film I Am Nevenka, it's a film just for women. It talks about women, what happened to this woman, and how the way her mindset changed to turn things around, turn the situation around. Yes, it's right, it's for women, but it's for men, because in my opinion, that's where the lesson you learn when you see the film, because we men can extract a lot from this film to realize what our behaviors are in order to report that behavior and to point them out. So therefore, it has a lot to say about women. I'm not too sure whether I answered you with this, your question with what I've just said. Yes? Hi. The film can't be more than complete, a very intelligent script, a great film, characters, fabulous characters, because the truth is they're very well characterized. There's no monster and an innocent person. They evolve as things take place. What impressed me is the attitude of the public prosecutor, like many magistrates who think it's a joke. Well, multiple rapes, for example, that exists. And following by what my InfoBay colleague has said, I think in these last 20-odd-something years, the truth is there's an awareness, but there's also denial. Everything is denied. The climate change, everything's being denied, and this is being denied as well. And to say it in a phrase, I would like to ask myself whether this mayor, at a given moment, declares himself a victim, couldn't go into the community of Madrid to the harassment of males. I'm sure he would be taken in his report, and he could proceed as a person who's been harassed, provoked by a young person when he lost his wife, etc. in the film. So therefore, it seems to me that we should reflect upon this, because in the last 20 years, it seems that education has tried to fight against all this, and I'm not too sure whether we're managing to achieve any clear success. Thank you. Well, every time when we advance, we take a step back, and we obviously we deny a problem which is quite obviously. The story for us is so pristine, so clear, that there's no doubts about it. So it's a person, when nobody even addressed the possibility that this could be reported, and when everyone said that she shouldn't do it, she does so. So therefore, that's why she's a clear forerunner. Things advance, obviously, and there's always a reaction, and there will always be a reaction. This is part of the story of how society has progressed. There are people who think the old times were better, things that came before are better, but for us is what we have to always live with. It forms part of what we work with. I'm not too sure that it's anything new at all. It's true. At this time, the victims have to publicly manifest that they give in to any indemnification just to have a public image which is a bit cleaner, because they know that what they're going to receive from the audience or the public. Okay, we've got to finish the press conference. I wouldn't want to finish without Guillermo saying a few words about how he got involved in the project. Yes, to tell us when we received this project in Movistar Plus, we received a story and a script from ICIAR and ISA that had all the elements that we were looking for in Movistar Plus for the original fiction that we produce on the platform, with original series and with films. The script worked from an empathic standpoint, and a story that we all knew, many people knew, but also the power of fiction to come to address this character. I clicked with the story, the empathy with Nevenka, and I understood how courageous she was. But for example, living with her, going by the hand, how courageous she was, and to take that step, And the film and the script showed it very marvelously. In Movie Star Plus, we want to be the house of talent, and obviously, and to support this project at that time, so that ICIAR, with her perspective, and the producers could tell the story in the best way possible. So therefore, we're very proud to participate in the film. And above all, that can be seen in movie theaters. One of the biggest challenges that we have as an industry is how to manage the big films, the great films, can connect it with the audience, to not film, don't get lost in the tsunami with so many films and so many series, and to go to the movie theaters and very carefully and very strategically so that it can connect with the audience. So for when it comes to the platform, it can also be a phenomenon. So we're very happy to participate in the film. Thank you, Diego. I would like to say that step through going through the movie theaters is going to be thanks to Buena Vista, who has also been another person that's come along with us. They did it with Michelle, and they made the film grow. And in this case, we think it's going to be the same thing, because in the entire process, from the outset, from the script, they actively entered into the film. They're very convinced, and they're very great friends of ours as well. And if I'm not mistaken, the film's going to be premiered next year on the 27th. Yes, yeah, you know, everyone to the movie theaters and outside. We've got to finish, so go. See you later. Thank you very much.